Yo, what is good? Ben from Lover of Tech. Welcome to another ultimate camera comparison. This time is between the iPhone 12 mini versus the Google Pixel 4a. Now, I know before you guys go in the comments, this is a slightly unfair comparison. £699 versus £350. But both of these are known to be mini powerhouses when it comes to the camera experience. So we're going to do this, man. Test every mode as much as possible. Daylight and low light test. But before we do, as you've seen, 4K UHD 60 frames a second on the 12 mini versus 1080p 30, which is what it caps out at. But before we carry on, let's do a quick camera test breakdown of the hardware and then back to the main camera comparison.
Now, this is a quick breakdown of the main hardware specs. Starting with the iPhone 12 mini, at the rear you are looking at a dual camera system, a 12 megapixel main sensor with an f1.6 aperture, and also a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera with an f2.4 aperture for 120-degree field of view. And if you move over to the selfie camera, you are looking at 12 megapixels of f2.2. And moving over to the Pixel 4a, which is a much simpler setup, you do have a 12.2 megapixel sensor at the rear with an f1.7 aperture, just a single camera lens for the wide, no ultra wide, no zoom. And over to the selfie, you are working with an 8 megapixel sensor with an f2.0 aperture. Again, the full specs breakdown will be in the description, so have a look at it there, and we're gonna get back into the main camera comparison.
Starting with the front facing camera, you're looking at 4K UHD 60 frames a second on the 12 mini versus 1080p 30 frames a second on the Pixel 4a. Obviously checking the stabilization, image quality, dynamic range as much as it can with the lack of daylight. Quick run. Again, now we've switched over to the 4K UHD 30 frames a second on the iPhone 12 mini versus the Google Pixel 4a. Again, testing it all out, image quality stabilization, as well as the dynamic range based on how much light we've got. Quick run. Now matching up both the resolution and the frame rate, 1080p 30 frames a second on both. And again, just testing it out. Quick run. So 4K UHD 30 frames a second on the main camera. Again, testing out the image quality stabilization, dynamic range. Quick run. Perfect. Again, at the rear, 4K UHD 30 frames a second on both. This is the advantage of the iPhone 12 mini. On the fly, you can switch to the ultra wide. Bang. Now on the ultra wide field of view. And the Pixel 4a only has the main camera sensor. So, quick run. Perfect. So you can see it. Ultra wide. Back to the main. Ultra wide. Back to the main. So this is 4K UHD 60 frames a second on the iPhone 12 mini versus 4K 30 on the Pixel 4a. Remember, the 12 mini has a slight quirk. In 4K UHD 60, if you do want to shoot in an ultra wide, you do have to stop the recording for you to be able to switch to the ultra wide, but it can record at 4K UHD 60. Firstly, we're just going to go with the main camera for now. Minding the cars. Now quick run to test stabilization. Now in 4K UHD 60 frames a second on the 12 mini, 4K 30 on the Pixel 4a, but with the ultra wide angle field of view. Again, for demonstrative purposes, if you have a look at this, if I zoom in to ×1, it is not switching to the main camera. It's cropping in on the ultra wide angle sensor. Hence why it only goes up to ×1.5 crop. Back to the ultra wide, as you can see. So we're going to test it, see the stabilization. Perfect. Now we're in 1080p 30 frames a second on both the cameras. Just gonna go through the paces on both. Quick run, the main sensor. Then we're gonna come into ultra wide. Again, we're just seeing how the ultra wide looks. Then we're gonna do a digital zoom as planned. Quick run. Now we're gonna come back to the main. ×2 zoom. ×2. And a quick run while zooming in for stabilization. Perfect. So this is the iPhone 12 mini versus the Google Pixel 4a, 4K UHD, 30 frames a second on both the rear cameras. Again, just seeing how the low light performance for video stabilization performs on both. And again, Pixel 4a only has the single main wide camera, not the ultra wide. I'm gonna walk for a bit. Let's stop here. We'll go ultra wide on the iPhone 12 mini. You can see that ultra wide really takes a low light hit as per what we've seen from previous camera comparisons. Back to the main. Selfie video. You do have 4K UHD 30 frames a second on the 12 mini, and the Pixel 4a only does 1080p 30. Let's see how they both perform.
Now we're moving over to the daytime pictures as well as the nighttime pictures. We're going to summarize this as quickly as possible rather than doing an individual picture by picture breakdown. So what I would 100% recommend is pause and have a look at the pictures as I'm describing them. And also we're going to do a summary of the video performance on both these cameras. In regards to the daytime selfie, both take really good selfies. I still feel like I'm more favored on how the Pixel takes selfies overall. Even in backlit situations, it does seem to handle very harsh backlit lighting situations as well. Both take good portrait mode when it comes to the background blur. Still very impressive, the background blur and the portrait images that you get on the Pixels, as well as obviously the color rendition, the contrasty look, that kind of more edgy look. I do think that the iPhone does have decent colors in terms of the white balance, but I just prefer how the images for the selfie really come out overall on the Pixel 4a, and just something that's what Google has been really doing. It might just be down to personal choice in terms of how it does that, but I just personally prefer how selfie images come out on the Google Pixel 4a. Now when it comes to the main pictures at the rear, you do have to give the flexibility of the iPhone 12 mini. Having not just the main wide camera but also the ultra wide really gives it flexibility, especially when it comes to things like landscape shots and just overall, you know, the main shots that you get at the back. Both produce really good images. You know, I don't think you're going to go wrong with either. The color processing is ever so slightly different. iPhones tend to lean more to like a warmer look, whereas obviously the Pixels have always gone for that kind of more neutral to more colder look, and also more of that, you know, kind of like, you know, that edgy, contrasty look, but still very accurate in that sense, very neutral. So really in terms of styling, I've always just loved what the Pixels do. And even when it comes to the main camera sensor, man, if you're looking at how the portrait mode is imaged and processed, right, you know, the Pixel really just does a good job for a single camera lens. And just even just style of it, man, it just doesn't miss. You know, sometimes it does, it struggles, but when it hits it, man, it hits it really right. And the advantage you get with the iPhone is that when you are taking portrait shots, you do see a preview of it. Now both do suffer the penalty of not really being great for zooming. So when it comes to like zooming in with landscape shots, they're not really that great because there isn't a dedicated telephoto sensor, especially, which is something that helps during the daytime. But when it comes to to nighttime pictures. Yes, flexibility is there. Both the night modes are really good, and especially the night mode has really improved in the 12 series. But with the astrophotography mode on the Google Pixel, man, although the normal nighttime pictures without night mode can struggle versus the iPhone, and obviously with the iPhone having the flexibility of the ultra wide, which again, the ultra wide isn't good by itself without using the night mode. When you kick in the night mode, the image just looks so much better on the Pixel. It cleans up ridiculously crazy. And if you look at the low light selfie in terms of normal pictures as well as night mode with the flash, they're very even in that sense. As well as nighttime portrait mode, you are getting a slightly wider field of view with the iPhone 12, where it crops in a little bit more with the Google Pixel 4a to be able to get that activated, but still impressive nonetheless that they can do that. And when it comes to video, I think it's to no one's surprise, iPhone 12 mini all the way. Again, the Pixel 4a for £350 versus a $699 flagship mini phone, it really does punch above its weight, but it just can't match, man. The fact that the iPhone 12 mini can shoot 4K UHD 60 frames a second with stabilization, although it takes a slight hit to dynamic range on the selfie camera, as well as being able to, you know, record that in the ultra wide and the main, the bitrate, the quality, 10-bit color, as well as obviously HDR with Dolby Vision. If you want video out of these two, yes, it's definitely going to have to be the iPhone 12 mini. Is it worth how much of the price difference it is? Yeah, to an extent, I think it kind of is. But credit to Google when it comes to the audio processing, the stabilization in the main camera for 4K and video at that price. It's really a good minimum benchmark. Overall, it's really not too much people surprised that the overall camera system that's going to be better is going to be the 12 mini. But my goodness, £350 for stellar pictures, stellar portrait mode, great selfies and stills, as well as great main camera stabilization and that top tier night mode. That Pixel 4a, man, it still punches way above its weight. So yeah, that's it. Quick summary of both. Again, as it's rounding through the pictures, definitely pause it, have a detailed look, and let me know in the comment section below which one you prefer out of the two. That's it for me, Ben from Lover of Tech. If you enjoy videos like this, you know exactly what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're part of Team TLS, the Tech Lover Squad, so you don't miss any future videos on the channel. I hope you're all safe during this time. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.